How many licensed logging firms do we have in this country, Mr. President?
Logging is not allowed. There was an executive order, EO23, akin nababasahin ko sa record.
I understand, Mr. President.
Aquino administration pa po, itong EO23.
Kung meron po tayong log ban, Mr. President, bakit marami pa ring pinuputol na kahoy at bakit walang nahuhuli? Kasi pagsasabihin po ng DNR, wala po, Mr. President, I can direct them doon sa mga lugar na putol ng putol. Huwag na po tayo lumayo. Sa Rizal na lang po, meron. Sa Palawan, meron. Sa Mindanao, meron. I can enumerate and I can give you my list kung hindi po ninyo alam na talamak po ang illegal logging sa ating bansa. Papel lang po yan eh. Hindi naman po sinusunod yan, Mr. President. Ang hinuhuli po na nakikita natin sa TV, sa mga news, ay yung mga pagputol ng mga katutubo for their livelihood. Hindi po yung tonelada o board feet na mga kahoy at pinuputol ng mga katutubo para pang-uling nila. Yung po yung hinuhuli ng DNR checkpoint. Pangpagawa ng bahay nila. Pero yung mga malalaking troso na pinapaanod sa ilog dyan sa Mindanao, sa Palawan, sa Rizal, hindi po nahuhuli. The reason, Mr. President, I ask is how much are we spending protecting our mountains, protecting our forests, pero wala naman pong nangyayari. That's what I want to find out, Mr. President, na how much do they spend to protect our forests, to protect our mountains? And unfortunately, ayon po sa Haribon Foundation, there's like 9,000 hectares of forest in Sierra Madre is lost every year. And we keep on funding DNR to protect our forests, to protect our mountains from mining. Saan po nagagasta, Mr. President? And that's my question. Magkano po ang inilalaan talaga ng DNR to protect our mountains, to protect our forests, Mr. President?
You're correct, Mr. President. Let me just state on record, under the Natural Resources Enforcement and Regulatory Program, there is 1.19 billion. There's a hiring of forest protection officers, 162 million, 750,000. There's hiring, ba't ang liit, 564 forest guards, 57 million, etc. Operations against illegal environment and natural resources activities, 110,556,000. So the total for enforcement would be 1,357,340,000. Only 1.3 billion to. This billion.
1.3 billion, Mr. President, and I believe at this point that will not be sufficient, or I don't know kung sufficient, pero hindi talaga napupunta for protection, Mr. President. Because I have here on record na sa kabila ng bilyong-bilyong pondo na inilaan ng Kongreso para sa National Greening Program noong 2024. Pero bakit 44,000 ng natural forest natin ang nawasak? If we have this funding to protect them, if we have all these resources to protect our forests, our mountains, bakit po 44,000 ng natural forest ang nawasak, Mr. President?
You're correct, Mr. President. I have my reservations about the National Greening Program, Mr. President. And I must admit, I cut a large part of it in the committee report. Give me the COA report. I have to put it on record. Because there are gaps in the planning, implementation, and monitoring of the program. Not all of the NGP's 5 objectives are performance indicators. These objectives include poverty reduction, food security, environmental stability, biodiversity conservation, climate change mitigation and adaptation. And absent these indicators, it will be difficult to measure program milestones and success. The program was implemented in some areas without conducting proper survey, mapping, and planning. The inclusion of potential areas even without a fully organized people's organization that would continuously manage the site. The inclusion of very far NGP sites even though the closer ones are registering low survival rates. Low survival rate due to unsuitability of the site for planting. absence of an established centralized database, and weakness of input control and data management, which casts doubt on data accuracy and reliability insofar as actual accomplishments of partner organizations are concerned. Extension officers who were tasked to validate the performance and outputs of partners were not sufficient, thus compromising the integrity of reports on program accomplishments. I could give you more, Mr. President. That's part of the reason why this representation had to painfully delete a large portion of the National Greening Program.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that answer. If I can just direct your attention to our TV monitors. Ito po ay kuha kaninang umaga lang sa Surigao. Ito pong mga kalbo na kabundukan dyan. Nakunan po yan ng team ko. Ito po ay sa barangay Kabangahan, Cantilan, Surigao del Sur. Ayan po ang nangyayari dyan, Mr. President.
Mr. President, may we know which LGU? This is at Surigao, but which town in Surigao?
Barangay Kabangan, Cantilan, Surigao del Sur.
And is this an NGP area?
I'm not sure, but this was reported to me. Adlay, Carrascal, Surigao del Sur, Kabanghan, Katilan, Surigao del Sur, Mr. President. My question now is, Mr. President, is meron po bang recruitment ng forest rangers? Kasi po, mukhang kulang po eh. Ang isang forest ranger natin, ang kailangan niya bantayan, 45,000 hectares. Eh ang dapat daw, ang ika nga mas acceptable is 1:25,000. Pero 1 is 45, mukhang doble ho. Talaga hindi niya kakaya. Buti sana kung naka-helicopter yung mga forest ranger, eh naglalakad lang naman po yan.
Admittedly, Mr. President, it is far from ideal. We only have, according to the NIAR, 1:4,500 forest rangers. Ilan total nationwide? That would be how many total nationwide? Hmm? We only have 2,000 forest rangers nationwide? That's not 1:4,500.
Yes, no, but
Kaya nga. So with only 2,000 forest rangers nationwide, that's already 1:4,500. I think it's much. Mali yun. No. Okay. I'm disputing their figures eh. Kasi 2,000 lang daw ang ating forest rangers, Mr. President. And ayon sa DNR, 1:4,500. Hindi, ang tingin ko, mas malawak pa yung sakop dahil i-compute mo yung ating forest land, hindi 1:4,500 kung 2,000 lang sa buong Pilipinas. Hindi yung bibigyan ng maling figure. Definitely, Mr. President, there are not enough forest rangers defending our forests, and I agree with you, yung uka-ukang mukhang sungkang bundok yun, ay hindi binabantayan. Hindi talaga, aminin ko na, hindi po talagang kayang bantayan lahat ng ating kabundukan. At maski yung sinasabing binabantayan, sa tingin ko, hindi sapat at hindi tama ang ating pagbabantay. At sa tingin ko, masyadong maluwag ang pagbibigay ng mga permit sa pagpuputol ng mga punong kahoy. Ako'y po'y naniniwala sa inyong sinasabi, and I join you in that, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President, for ika nga pagsang-ayon po sa hindi lamang po ako, Mr. President, na nakakita dyan, nakapansin, kundi maraming po tayong kababayan. Mamaya po, ito po ay sample pa lamang po sa Surigao. Mamaya po, hindi pa natin natatalakay ang status po ng Sierra Madre. May mga litrato po kami at video, ano na po ang nangyayari sa Sierra Madre. But moving forward, Mr. President, ang tanong ko po, ilan po ang mining companies na license po na nag-ooperate to this day? Or ilan pong mining companies ang may lisensya para magmina po dito sa ating bayan? How many? Pero before you answer that, Mr. President, balikan ko lamang po, yung binanggit po, yung pinakita ko kaninang video ay part po yung na National Greening Program na dapat pong binabantayan pero kalbo na ngayon. So ang tanong natin, saan napunta yung budget nito na para pangalagaan ang bundok na ito? National Greening, Mr. President, wala na pong punong kahoy. Jesus Maria Josep, Mr. President.
Ako po'y lubos na sumasang-ayon sa inyo at inaantay ko po mula sa MGB ang listahan ng lahat ng mining companies.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Then I guess wala pa rin ho sa Inyong kamay, itatanungin ko sana kung ilan
ito
po ang unlicensed, Madam Chair. Mr. President.
Again, ayon to sa kanilang datos, there are 59 operating metallic mines, 52 producing mines, 7 mines under care and maintenance. There are 60 operating non-metallic mines, 52 producing mines, and 8 mines under care and maintenance. Is this all? Ito lang ba? This is per the records, Mr. President.
Alright. Dito naman po tayo sa unlicensed, Mr. President. Kung wala po silang listahan ng unlicensed, mali po ang MGB. Kailangan meron po kayong accountability din or accounting ng mga unlicensed dahil marami po tayong mga small scale mining, illegal mining sa ating bansa at mas dumarami ito.
Yun po sa kanila, ang meron lang sila yung legitimate na may license, wala kayong alam sa mga nagbili ng walang lisensya. Lugar, walang pangalan. Okay, ayon po sa kanila, yung mga walang lisensya pero merong small scale mining ay Paracale, Camarines Norte. Saan sa Misamis? Opol, Misamis, Ok or Or? Oriental, Opol, Misamis Oriental. Saan pa po? Mount Tiwalwal. Parang first term ko pa, ito na yung problema. Pang-apat ko ng termino, yung pa rin problema. Okay, Mount Tiwalwal, Compostela Valley, that's Davao Ok. And then?
Sa bandang Benguet po.
Where in Benguet? Itugon, Benguet. Surigao del Norte.
May Rojas, Palawan din po.
And in Rojas, Palawan as well. These are illegal. Illegal, small or large scale?
Small scale mines.
Illegal, small scale mining operations. Are there legal? Are there large scale legal? A large scale illegal? Wala. Lahat. Yung binanggit ko, what I read into the record, Mr. President, are those with permits and have mineral, all have MPSAs, the metallic and the non-metallic. What I just mentioned are the places, they cannot name companies because these are small scale, because they are allegedly illegal small scale mining in these areas. There are probably more. Are you able to tell us more? That's what they can remember now.
Madam
Mr.
Chair, can this representation request that all these listing be submitted to this representation? Kasi my next question sana is, what have they been doing? Ano pong ginagawa nila? They know that there is an existing illegal mining, small-scale mining. Nakakausap ko po yung mga otoridad, nakakausap ko po ang PNP, ang Special Action Force. They're willing to accompany yung MGB to shut it down, Mr. President. Pero wala naman daw nagre-report sa kanila. Nakakarating po sa amin sa media. When I was still in the media, matagal na pong problema yan. Pero wala naman pong ginagawa ang DNR.
And when I was a journalist like you were, I used to do stories on some of these. When I assumed my Senate work in 1998, I visited some of these sites, including Diwalwal, Paracale, and the frustration that you are showing now is the same frustration I've had since 1998. I sit now to defend the budget of this agency, and I am having difficulty in trying to answer these questions because I share your frustration. Because these are the same areas that have, up to now, after more than 25 years, the illegal mining activities. So, what am I to do? It is my duty to defend the budget of this agency.
I understand.
If they're not doing their mandated duty to protect the areas that are being subjected to illegal mining activities, but I have to defend their budget, Mr. President. I'm being very candid with you.
Thank you, Mr. President. But the way I look at it, Mr. President, and I cannot blame you, this will go on and go on because, Mr. President, ginagawa mong gatasan itong mga illegal mining. Moving forward, Mr. President, how many licensed logging firms do we have in this country, Mr. President?
Logging is not allowed. There was an executive order, EO23, akin na, babasahin ko sa record.
I understand, Mr. President.
Aquino administration pa po,
Uh-huh.
itong EO23, can I have a copy of EO23? That banned mining in,
Logging.
logging in primary forests and even secondary forests, right? Kaya EO naman kayo, hindi kayo handa eh. Nakakainis naman eh. Akin na, EO23, ano ba? DNR. Bakit ang DOT kanina ang dali-daling i-defend? Ready yung mga ayan siya. Can I have a copy of EO23? Okay, what year was this? In 2000, this was Aquino administration, okay. 2011. Declaring moratorium on the cutting and harvesting of timber in the natural and residual forests and creating the anti-illegal logging task force. Whereas the entire country has been a witness to the ever-changing climatic conditions brought about by the La Nina phenomenon. Whereas the destructive efforts or effects of the phenomenon on the environment are apparent in many regions in the country, and it is an accepted fact that the effects are worsened due to the continuous denudation of forest zones. Whereas the watersheds and river systems supporting existing or proposed hydroelectric power facilities, irrigation works, or existing water facilities are in need of immediate protection and rehabilitation. Whereas it is the obligation of the state to protect the remaining forest cover areas of the country, not only to prevent flash floods and hazardous flooding, but also to preserve biodiversity, protect threatened habitats and sanctuaries of endangered and rare species, and allow natural regeneration of residual forests and development of plantation forests. Whereas it is imperative to arrest the degradation, pollution, and contamination of the river and water systems to stem the wanton destruction of the forest resources. Whereas Section 12, Section 2 of the 1987 Constitution provides that the exploration, development, and utilization of natural resources shall be under the full control and supervision of the state. Now, therefore, I, Benigno S. Aquino III, President of the Republic of the Philippines, by virtue of the powers vested in me by law, do hereby order Section 1 for the purpose, mahaba ito eh. Let me just state, so let this whole EO be on record, but let me state Section 2, moratorium on the cutting and harvesting of timber in the natural forests, a moratorium on the cutting and harvesting of timber in the natural and residual forests of the entire country is hereby declared unless lifted after the effectivity of this order. And in order to implement this policy, the following are hereby instituted. The DNR is hereby prohibited from issuing logging contracts and agreements in all natural and residual forests, such as integrated forest management agreements, socialized integrated forest management agreements, community-based management agreement, and other agreements with logging components in natural and residual forests. The DNR is likewise prohibited from issuing, renewing tree cutting permits in all natural and residual forests nationwide except for clearing of road right-of-way by the DPWH, site preparation for tree plantations, silviculture treatment, blah, blah, blah. So, let me just put into record the whole executive order. So, maliwanag po, mula ng Aquino administration ay bawal po, because the EO has a force of law, ang pagpuputol ng puno at bawal ang DNR magbigay sa lahat po ng natural and residual forests. That would mean primary forests and secondary forests, right? Right?
Thank you, Mr. President. Hingi lang po ako ng paumanhin sa pumanaw nating dating Pangulong Pinoy dahil, sir, hindi po sinusunod ang inyong kautusan. Kung meron po tayong lag ban, Mr. President, bakit marami pa ring pinuputol na kahoy at bakit walang nahuhuli? Kasi pagsasabihin po ng DNR, wala po, Mr. President, I can direct them
Saan ba dapat?
doon sa mga lugar na putol ng putol. Huwag na po tayo lumayo. Sa Rizal na lang po, meron. Sa Palawan, meron. Sa Mindanao, meron. I can enumerate and I can give you my list kung hindi po ninyo alam na talamak po ang illegal logging sa ating bansa. Papel lang po yan eh. Hindi naman po sinusunod yan, Mr. President. Ang hinuhuli po na nakikita natin sa TV, sa mga news, ay yung mga pagputol ng mga katutubo for their livelihood. Hindi po yung tonelada o board feet na mga kahoy at pinuputol ng mga katutubo para pang-uling nila. Yung po yung hinuhuli na DNR checkpoint. Pangpagawa ng bahay nila. Pero yung mga malalaking troso na pinapaanod sa ilog yan sa Mindanao, sa Palawan, sa Rizal, hindi po nahuhuli, Mr. President.
Meron pa nga. Ako po'y sumasang-ayon sa inyo dahil ayon sa EO, dapat bawal talaga sa primary at secondary or natural and residual. At dapat lang po yung mga may tinatawag na tenure agreements, allowed po yun sa mga plantation forest kung sila po ang nagtanim, kasi bago sila nagtanim ay kalbo o denuded, pwede po yun. Tapos harvest po nila pero humihingi ng permit kasi meron silang tenure agreement, tenurial agreement. Pero inaamin po nila na meron ngang illegal logging sa mga lugar na binanggit po, at maski hindi nyo binanggit, alam natin nagaganap po yun sa alalim ng ating mga mata. Kaya tinatanong ko sa Forest Management Bureau at sa buong DNR, anong ginagawa nyo doon? Kaya nga, hindi tayo epektibo. Una, tinanong po nyo ang mining. Ang daming mga illegal mining. Ngayon naman po, tinanong nyo ang logging, bagamat merong ban, meron pa ring illegal logging. At nakikita natin sa mga trahedyang nagaganap sa ating bansa, at tuwing malakas ang bagyo na pagbagsak mula sa bundok, these are logs. Ibig sabihin, di ko alam kung ang depensa nila ay galing to sa mga plantation forest, yung manunuhulog na logs. Sa tingin ko, hindi lang galing sa plantation forest, galing sa illegal mining sa mga lugar na bawal mag-logging. Illegal mining ba sinabi ko? Illegal logging sa mga lugar na bawal magputol. Ang sasabihin nilang dahilan, dahil hindi sapat ang nagbabantay. Ayun na naman tayo, paikot-ikot. Mr. President, I am as frustrated as you. Nakakagat ko na dila ko. Since 1998, Mr. President, I wish I was the one asking the question and not defending.
Mr. President, thank you. Actually, gusto ko sana magalit, kaso po ito pong nakaupo nating secretary, bago pa lamang po ito. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Pero since you're saying 1998 pa po ito nangyayari. At kanina, Madam President, sasagutin ko lang po yung katanungan mo, bakit hindi ka mabigyan ng inventory. Mukhang may problema po talaga sila sa inventory. Ika nga, you cannot manage what you cannot measure. Yun ho yun. At saka, the beauty of budget deliberation is we're able to determine policy problems, Mr. President. Anyway, Mr. President, moving on. Dadagdagan ko lang po yung sakit po ng ulo ninyo.
Teka po, sabihin ko lang to. Ang unang privilege speech ko nung ako'y neophyte, nung 1998, ay delineation of final forest limits. I was 38 years old when I espoused for that. Hindi pa po siya batas hanggang ngayon. Yun po ang unang privilege speech. Doon ako nakatayo, nagtataka yung mga mas veterano sa akin, bakit yun ang pinag-uusapan ko. But I'm glad you mentioned it. You cannot treasure what you do not measure. Wala po tayo hanggang ngayon, tama ba ako, na delineation ng ating final forest limits. Kaya 1998, yun po, at ipuput on record ko yung una kong privilege speech. And I file that every year. It's never enacted into law. It takes the whole Congress to enact that law. So I'm glad that if you want to join me in ensuring its passage, I would be happy. But I am certain it would be so difficult now because in the past decades, people have already encroached into these forests, and maybe a large percentage of these forests are no longer forests to protect us, but denuded forests that have killed thousands and have devastated livelihoods.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Constitution requires
And
Yeah, it's a constitutional provision actually. My first privilege speech was based on a constitutional provision that indeed Congress must delineate final forest limits. I remember it was a good friend and a Magsaysay awardee, Attorney Tony Oposa, who helped me in crafting my first privilege speech. I stand here now after 27 years and you're asking me, and my first speech is as relevant then as it is now.
thank you, Mr. President. I am grateful po to you, Madam Chair. Alam ko po na ang iyong advokasya talaga ay ang pagprotekta ng kalikasan. And I am also sad at this point na you're defending the agency na ika nga na tila hindi po nagagawa ang kanilang trabaho.